Well, hi, welcome to the AOA Lessons in Leadership podcast. My name is Matt Schmitz here in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm really excited to have two guests with us today, Dr. Doug Lundy and Dr. Aaron Brandt. And, the purpose of today's podcast is really to talk about some new directions for the AOA podcast. And kudos goes out to Chuck Goldfarb and Alex Aleem, who have been running the show for the past couple of years. But as part of the technology subcommittee, one of the ideas we had is why not develop some kind of different series of podcasts and split up the work amongst folks. And so I've recruited Aaron and Doug to help me in this venture. And why don't I first have you guys introduce yourself? So Dr. Lundy, why don't you introduce yourself to the listenership?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Schmitz. I'm Doug Lundy. I'm an orthopedic trauma surgeon in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, not too far along. I left Atlanta, moved up to Bethlehem, where I'm the chair of the Department of Orthopedic Surgery at St. Luke's University Health Network.
Thank you. And then Dr. Brandt, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Dr. Schmitz. First, thanks for getting me involved. I think this is a great new direction for this, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm currently a pediatric orthopedic surgeon at Johns Hopkins. I'm early in career, just a couple years into practice, and a lot of these topics are really going to be worthwhile for me and worthwhile for other early surgeons, so I'm excited to be a part of it.
Thank you. Yeah. And so the idea again was instead of just coming up with a monthly list of topics to talk about to kind of spread the wealth. And so those of you that have been listening have noticed that we've had a series of podcasts with our carousel presidents that are currently released. And so two of the additional ones I've asked Dr. Lundy and Dr. Brandt to kind of help develop. So Dr. Lundy, why don't you tell us about kind of your spoke on the wheel, your series of podcasts that you're looking to develop here?
Yes, thank you very much. So we were asked to develop a podcast series, which is really very, very fascinating. It's on the future in orthopedic surgery, which, as y'all know, that's a wide open topic. There's so many different ways we could take that. It was very intriguing. So what does the future hold for orthopedic surgery? And as soon as you say that, your mind probably just starts racing for all the different venues that this could go through. And this will focus on the vast spectrum of change that'll occur as the future continues to roll out. And so what we did is we were able to narrow this down so far into 7 different domains that we would discuss. I'll just go through the 7 domains. There's change in culture, change in compensation, change in employment, change in technology, changes in scope of practice, changes in quality, and then miscellaneous changes. A lot of this comes in through my previous work as the chair of the Council on Advocacy for the Academy, where many things were hitting orthopedics all from different angles. And we rolled into that. And then also from the different practice patterns. I've been in both private practice and now academic orthopedic surgery. And how do those changes look in the future? Where's that going? And then, of course, we're constantly being hit with changes in technology, both from the implant side, from electronic health records, from robotics, from restorative biologics, from big data, from all sorts of different things. And so we're going to take these on one at a time, looking for specific subject matter experts in the field to kind of tackle each one of these and try to guesstimate where orthopedics is going and where we as a profession could be prepared for to step in front of these changes before they occur.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. That brings up to mind the old adage that the only thing constant is change, and how as you're mid to the latter part of your career, how different things are now compared to they were when you first got out of training, right? And I was laughing, actually. I was on call over the weekend and operating with our junior residents and trying to explain to them, back when I was a resident, open fractures got treated in the middle of the night 100% of the time. There's been changes in our science, changes in our technology, and it's fun to look back on that, but also try to predict. Are you going to try and get some people to help predict the future for us? Maybe bring in some AI?
Yeah, well, it's funny. AI would certainly tell us what it is, but we're looking around at the different authors and I've gone back through different AOA symposia to look for experts there, as well as throughout the other societies, and trying to figure out who are the people that have an interesting niche viewpoint and a worldview from their situation that may give us more insight into how things are going. And y'all know this. You're at the AOA meeting, you're walking around, you run into a friend of yours, and they kind of say, hey, by the way, have you ever thought blah? And you're like, no, I've never thought of that until you said that. And we're trying to find these people and make sure that they are able to talk about that specific subject matter that they're experts in. And hopefully, to your point, predict the future and help us get there before everybody else does.
That sounds great. What about you, Dr. Brandt? Can you tell us a little bit about the series of podcasts that you're going to help develop?
Yeah, absolutely. I think piggybacking on what Dr. Lundy was just discussing. I think the future of orthopedics, kind of the changes that we're going to see are one big piece, but the other piece is the surgeons who will be the future. And I think that's what the objective of this early career group of podcasts is going to be targeted as, is really focusing on some of the topics and areas of interest specific to early career surgeons. And I'll go through those here in a second. One other more general goal that I hope to get from this is attract earlier leaders, if you will. So residents, fellows who are going to take an interest in some of these topics, but also give earlier exposure to them for this organization. It's a great organization that I obviously love being a part of and am happy to be a part of, but we aren't exposed to it early enough.
Yeah, the AOA's got great offerings for the resident leadership forum and the emerging leaders program, kind of the farm system, if you will, for full-fledged AOA membership. And so I love your idea about targeting some of those younger surgeons, the residents, the early career surgeons with a series of podcasts. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the topics that you want to dive into?
Yeah, of course. So some of the areas that we're going to hit on as of now, and I do think that there's room for expansion for sure. But one thing I always want to hit on is kind of the why. I get questions about that all the time, and we'll discuss that, and you'll hear about that in many different ways throughout these series. But I do think we'll touch on that as well. Other topics like board success, I think just kind of demystifying the process. I know it's a lot of anxiety around that, and just maybe having a little bit more of an informal discussion on ideas from some of the people that just finished the process. Mentorship, kind of meaningful mentorship in this early stage. Discussing kind of first job, how to be successful, but also the idea that maybe that first job is not going to be where you stay. So discussing the changes that come in those first 5 years. Other areas like academic productivity, early practice, just being productive and successful. And then some other areas, efficiency and just getting the most out of your time and addressing some of the challenges early in clinical practice. Topics like complications and managing situations like that will be kind of the goal. So many topics, obviously very broad, but trying to really target it from that perspective.
Yeah, and there's things that you look back on. Now I'm 10 to 15 year into my career after residency and looking back and going, man, I really wish someone would have taught me this or told me this in those first couple of years. And remembering how busy you thought you were. And now I look back and I'm 10 times busier. And I'm sure Dr. Lundy looks back at his career and when he was in my stage of career goes, I wish I was only that busy again, right? And so it's important, I think, to learn those efficiencies and learn those lessons and maybe by having some guests on to help teach us how not to do things or ways to avoid, well, here's the mistakes I made. Because unfortunately, as orthopedic surgeons, that's one way that we learn frequently.
Yeah. These topics come up a lot, and I feel like connecting the dots is kind of a big thing in my opinion. It's academic productivity, efficiency. We hear these over and over, but the goal here is not to just discuss them and tell bullet point. I think these discussions will be very helpful and hopefully a little bit more digestible. And to your point, we need to learn from each other and also be willing to have these conversations a little bit more candidly. So hopefully that's what happens.
Yeah, and like Dr. Lundy was saying, the AOA is one of my favorite meetings every year because you're not just looking at studies on how to do ACL reconstructions or elbow fractures in children, but it's really some of these other things that maybe we didn't learn in residency. We spend those 5 to 6 years learning how to operate and how to do a total knee and total hip, but the leadership development, the kind of the life organization, I think both of these series of podcasts can help with those. Dr. Lundy, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's that real world application. And I'll be honest, that's the main reason why I left private practice and went into academics is to your point, after doing so much for so long, you're thinking, man, when we're done, this is just gone. And it's one thing to teach them. I was just with my chief resident going through a complex intercondylar distal humerus fracture. It's one thing to show the chief something like that, but it's another thing to talk about not just career progression and what to look for in contracts and all those things, but true satisfaction. What's important? Where are those true indicators of success and contentment and happiness with your career? I invest in our attendings at our department. I look into those things. What's that itch that God put in you that only orthopedic surgery can scratch? And that's the purpose of both of these podcast series, I think, is to look out there past just to your point, the basic blocking and tackling of what we learned as residents in the technical aspects of orthopedics, but more the entire worldview and those things that really encompass our profession.
Yeah, and there's so many great leaders and doers within AOA that will help both of these series of podcasts that are willing to share their mistakes, are willing to share their successes and say, this is how I did it. This is how I would do it now. This is maybe the way we're going to do it in the future. And so the AOA is blessed to have a stable full of people that are willing to share that. And the way I kind of liken this is it's all those kind of backroom conversations you have at the meeting, except it'll be recorded for older surgeons and also residents and maybe even medical students that are interested in orthopedics or, chief residents transitioning. And Aaron, I think your series will be really helpful for them.
I only see value in this. I think it's a perspective and it's a discussion that, like you're saying, these are going on at AOA. I think that's one of the values of that conference in general. I saw that when I did the RLF immediately. That's when I was just latched on and was like, this is where I need to put my time in. They're discussions that just go beyond just the clinical side. They make us better surgeons, mentors, teachers, like all these little aspects. That's the goal. And so yeah. Amazing to be in the room with people, like to your point, like some of the giants in our profession, having very direct conversations with each of us about the hard things and some of the other aspects that matter. It was really impactful for me early on. And I hope that that's kind of what we get from these series moving forward.
And Aaron, to your point, in many ways, our two series tend to interface with each other, and you can see almost this constant thread kind of weaving back and forth between them.
I love that you put these together, Matt, because they do go hand in hand. There's the elements of how to get to this nebulous place of the future, and then try that crystal ball, if you will, and then just trying to find a way to do that efficiently and to the best of our ability. Really, we have to be good surgeons and good leaders to be able to get to that level.
No, that's awesome. Now, I wanted to thank you both for coming on here today to help kind of explain this. And again, I can't thank Chuck Goldfarb and Alex Aleem enough for the establishment of the AOA Leadership Podcast series and, helping provide that foundation. So anything else you guys want to add before we sign off today?
I'm excited to get this going. I'm happy that we're getting this process started. Thank you again for involving me, something that I really want to help with.
Awesome. Dr. Lundy, any last words?
Yeah, thank you very much. I also want to thank Chuck and Alex for their tremendous work in the podcast series prior to this as well. And I look forward to Aaron's and my podcast kind of interfacing and interacting back and forth with each other as we go forward with this. So I look forward to it, and thank you again.